The point is that, and we're not trying to pick on the boys, Zach, today. But
why do you look at me when you say that? Harry's a man.
Yes, but you had that post-hole.
But you, what's a post-hole?
Do you know how to
digger?
change a tire?
Yes, I do.
Do you know how to change a tire, Danny?
I want to learn.
Oh, snap.
And that is how you shift the blame to another guest.
No,
yes.
I've actually always wanted to learn, actually.
Not one other kid in this neighborhood does chores.
You're gonna get in trouble, Murtaugh.
Hey, Ma! Can we get some meatloaf?
He started it.
Mom!
What?
Shut up!
What is the matter with you?
I know it's a school night, so we're just going to get right down to it.
This is a very special edition of Will They Ever Leave? My name's Harry H. Harrison Jr., and with me is Catherine and
Catherine
and Dani Rios. And the thing that we want to talk about Dani about is that she did leave, and she set out on her own. And so we want to talk, and she made a success. You're not even 24, are you?
No, I'm 22.
22. So she's a roaring success at 22. So we want to talk about what kind of upbringing she got and what propelled her to such independence and success. So let her roll.
Let's do it.
Oh, and with me, of course, is Zach. And that's all I'll say.
Stick my hand in front. Oh, all right. I don't even get a title this week.
I was going to say he doesn't get his titles. Brideless, childless, godless.
That's right.
Oh, God, godless. Yeah, I
Brideless,
forgot
childless,
about that.
godless, millennial, Zach.
And today, does he get cultural-less?
Oh, yeah, he's a pure white Anglo.
Oh, come on.
He has nothing to
I'm
offer.
culturally sensitive.
I didn't say you weren't culturally sensitive. I love you,
He's
Zach.
got nothing.
Thank you.
Except he's got controls in his hands. We have to be nice.
I know. He can make you sound very bad. I
So-
mean, it's not hard.
Just going to kill Kathleen's mic. There we
Yeah.
go. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Harry.
also, we'll just concentrate on Dani. Will you please take some medication before you come on next time?
Oh, my God.
Danny, welcome to the show.
Every
you,
time.
guys.
Between him and me.
I'm
Every
sure.
time.
Trust me, I had to deal with that for a whole year.
So Dani is. I've known Dani for quite some long time.
For a year.
And I've always been just like amazed by her independence and her courage to just leave and set on her own. So, Dani, can you talk a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your upbringing, and what in the world propelled you? When did you leave the house? Like 18, 17?
Yeah, so, I mean, whenever you asked me and you told me, that to talk about how I became so independent, I was kind of trying to, like, pinpoint, the times in my life that made me who I am and made me this independent. And so I think just growing up, so in high school, I was kind of living back and forth from Mexico and Dallas. I was raised here in Dallas, though, for 13 years. And then in high school, I think that's when you're, like, trying to figure out, like, yourself and, who you're going to become and what you're going to do. And throughout those years, I was kind of living on my own, I guess you would say. Not really on my own, but I was living with my grandparents because my family moved back and I stayed behind with
How old
my
were you then?
grandparents.
Like
I was
15?
a sophomore in high school.
Okay, right.
Yeah, because
15.
I was raised here and my family went back to Mexico, but Dallas was my home, so I really didn't want to go back to Mexico, even though that's where I was born. So I was like, you know what, guys, I'll stay behind.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a brother. He's
Okay.
3 years younger than me.
Okay, so you're the oldest.
I am the oldest.
Okay.
So he actually had to go with my family back to Mexico. But I was like, you know what, guys, I think I'm just going to stay behind. And so I did with my grandparents. And I think throughout that time, I kind of became a little bit independent because, your grandparents, like, they spoil you. They're not going to give you any rules. And so I feel like in that semester that I was kind of alone, I became very independent.
Are we talking about your sophomore semester or your senior semester?
My sophomore semester in high school. Then I went back to Mexico with my parents. And then I came back for college and did a year and a half and then went back to Mexico again. But so it's been like back and forth for 5 years. But I think when like the time where I was like, you know what, I just need to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And it was like life changing. And I'm sure my mom doesn't even like remember saying this, but I remember my mom saying, like, you're always going to have to obey me and while you're in my house, and if I have to pay your bills, and if you're living under my roof, like, you're gonna have to obey me. So until you're on your own paying your own bills, then you can do whatever the heck you want. And so I was like, I took that as on like a challenge, because I feel like that's kind of like my personality. Like when people say I can't do stuff, I like try to
Throw
prove them
yourself
wrong.
into it, yeah.
So whenever my mom said that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work so hard. And I was probably like 19, 20 at this time. And I was like, I'm gonna freaking work so hard. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I want to be like successful, and I want to have, I want to be independent at a young age. And even I think throughout just growing up, I just always remember that I wanted to have my own business, and have be
So
an
why
entrepreneur,
why
I
do you
guess.
think? I mean, you observed a lot of. You observed American kids, high school kids. Did you feel different in terms of they wanted to stay around while you wanted to do your own thing? You had to
Yeah.
have felt a little different? That, guys, I want out of here. I don't want to stay with my parents.
Yeah, and that was actually more so when I did my senior year in Mexico, because Mexican families, they're very close, and it's like people don't leave their houses until they're married, and that could be like till you're like 30, but you're and then like the grandma lives at the house, so it's like the whole family lives under one roof. And I feel like even growing up, I never had that super tight. I mean, I had a very tight family, and like my family's like, family's number one. But for me, I was like, family is number one, and like, I always want to respect my family, but I can't just sit around and like have my family take care of me for the rest of my life, and so.
But that's a pretty radical decision for
It is, and I
17,
think that's,
18-year-old.
I know, and I think that's just,
Is that just
I'm
who
gonna
you are?
say my personality, yeah, and like.
I was going to jump in and ask you, like, because you were brought up in two different worlds, essentially. Do you consider yourself culturally more American, more Mexican, or both?
Well, my, handle is Mexico, because it is a mix, and it's like I can't say that I'm more American or more Mexican, because I really truly feel like I am both. And just I feel like in my lifestyle and kind of who I am, I'm a little bit more American. And then when it comes to like,
Every time.
the lights went off.
Mood lighting. We needed the mood lighting for your story.
For my story.
It's getting really, really warm. And
This is becoming a gimmick in our podcasts at this
Oh
point.
yeah, I used to like actively keep the lights on, and then I realized it was just a lot more fun to let them turn off. So
We can see if our guests are actually awake and paying attention.
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah, it keeps everybody on track.
So the reason why I asked you that question is because I think what Harry's trying to drill down is
translator.
Yes, I am your translator. I'm your millennial translator.
Yes.
Is that, do you think, like, and I think you already said it's more you than it is being culturally American or culturally Mexican that made you burst out of home?
Right. I wouldn't say, I just think it was just who I am and like my personality, but also I think it's just seeing the example in my parents, like, everyone in my family has like different businesses and stuff. So it was just like an entrepreneurial
Okay, so you're inspired by your
spirit, I guess.
by your family.
But I was, also thinking about it. I was like, but then there's people like my grandfather that he was literally like so poor, and he was like a little kid, in Mexico, like selling like gum on the street, I think. And he put himself through school, and he put himself through med school, and then later on, he got married, had 3 kids, and he was still finishing up med school, raising his family, and working. So it's like, for me, I was fortunate enough to have that example with my parents, and that they worked so hard to have their own business and stuff. But then there's people like my grandpa where like his parents weren't there for him, and he had his own goals and dreams, and just like aspired to be like greater, and he did it. So I think it's just like a
Kinda
mentality.
genetic. I don't know. It's kind of genetic, man. If
Yeah.
your grandpa did it.
Right. And so I mean, with my grandpa, and I think that's not like a story that always like I carry with me, because I'm like, if my grandpa did that and he literally had nothing, there's no way I'm like not going to be successful, and I'm not going to be able to do stuff. Like I need, I can't complain because I literally have everything.
So you hang around with two cultures in
Yes.
in nightclubs. Do you find
in
in
nightclubs.
nightclubs and
night-
bars?
I don't go to those. Who
Condos.
said that?
where-
Activities.
Mom's watching.
What I was trying to ask, I'm sorry, she never goes to nightclubs.
I
She
never
sits
go
at
to
home
those.
like a nun.
She is not a
That's
young
how she's gotten
woman. No.
11,000 followers. just isolated. So, have you noticed a difference maybe in the cultures between American youth and Mexican youth in terms of drive or in terms of wanting to? My son's told me about the whatever it's called, the thing about the $25,000 a year millionaires who live at their home. Live with their parents, but go out to nightclubs and they can't ask a girl out because they have to take them to their parents' house. So have you noticed a difference between the American, I'm gonna call them youth, and the Mexican youth in terms of drive or in terms of independence or?
Yeah, that's kind of hard. I'm kind of speaking like in general. I can't say,
general is what we're
right.
looking.
So, when I was in Mexico, where I was, it was, kind of like more fortunate people, I guess you could say. So those people had money, but I feel like they kind of depended on their parents' like business to like thrive. It's not like they wanted to go and do their own thing. And even if they wanted to go do their own thing, it's like their parents were going to help fund that, So I never wanted to be that kind of person. And so that's kind of what I saw being in Mexico. But then when I came here, it's, I don't know, I think like people still kind of depend on their parents a little bit.
He keeps talking about millennials and the things that our generation does and what we're becoming.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the questions I guess he's getting at are the same things happening to millennials in Mexico as they are in the United States? And add to go further, is it cultural in Mexico you just said that kids stay at home and they stay tight to the family but is it the same?
I feel like it is the same. Wow. I don't know. It's just like I feel like it's just different, like, when you're in like a different environments, it's just like the way you grow up depends on the person, I guess. But yeah, even like I have friends that will tell me like, I wasn't born like, kind of like I wasn't raised the way you were, so I don't really have, those dreams or goals or aspirations like you. And I'm like,
that's weird.
And I'm like, wait, what? Because I think some people like try to blame it on their parents, and my parents didn't teach me this or that. But yeah.
So, if you were advising girls between teenagers and 25 who find it hard, and actually I don't think this is a girl problem. I think it's more of a male problem.
Yeah, so I have a lot of like male friends that they like all live at home.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
You think
I'm
girls
like
are more
shock.
independent in our generation?
Absolutely.
I feel like they are, honestly.
Absolutely
I really do.
find that.
Zach?
I
Thoughts?
definitely
Oh
feel
gosh,
that.
you actually care what I think?
She
Not
does.
really.
No, I can go either way. I don't find a particular trend.
Well, you're a
male or
millennial
female.
male who is, living at.
Oh, sure.
You're not living at home, and
No,
you haven't been.
I moved
Not
away
for
from home for
60
college.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was out, and it kills me because my poor parents are like, you can always move home. You don't have to pay rent. You can just get a job out in Houston. You can figure it out. And I'm like, oh, please, God,
You're
no.
like, sweet, bye.
I really think
Love you to
that-
death, but I'm out.
that young men are more apt to stay at home than young women. From what I can tell, women now have a real independent streak.
Yeah, no, I actually have a lot of male friends that they live at home, and they have their good jobs, I guess, but they still live at home. And I'm just like,
Well, it's because you men need more help, and I discovered that through. I'm an older millennial. I'm at the top. I'm 35. I just turned 35.
and I've always wanted. So, like, when
It's
does it
the
stop
men.
and when does it start? I feel like everyone has a different like
the actual ages.
like millennial. Yeah, like what is that?
I thought in 2017, if you were 35 to 18 to
Yes.
35, as of this year, you're a millennial. If
18
you're
to
in that
35.
age, that's where you're at. So next year it'll be 1936.
Yeah,
so then
20,
it
37.
stops.
That's the
Oh,
best
wow.
way I can think
Okay.
to bookend it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask about. I know to bring in one more culture here. In Japan, of all places, it's not weird at all to move back in with your family after college or during college or whatever. In fact, they look at it as economically feasible because they're like, why wouldn't you?
Well,
it's
big-
cheaper.
You just
And
said
it's-
why.
It makes sense.
Japan has such a housing crisis,
Right.
especially when you're talking about Tokyo, and everybody wants to move out of the
There's just
countryside.
no land.
And they've got problems there, but for their culture, it's not that weird. It's normal.
I don't think they're doing it out of a dependence thing, though. I think it's a hard, cold economic reality.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think they feel like if I leave home, I'm really on my own and I'm really scared. And I think that's what a lot of young American males feel.
Right, and I wanted to ask about that regarding Mexico, because we have you here to talk about these two cultures. So yeah, where's that divide? Do people just move back in at some point and they're like, yeah, I'll just live here for a while? or-
Actually, no. So actually, in Mexico, it's very different. Like colleges actually don't have like dorms or stuff like that. So
Really?
yeah. So when
You're
peop-
expected to live at home?
yeah. So and I know that's crazy. So that's why when my mom was like, you can just go to college here, I was like, no way, because that means I have to stay here like longer.
no. Sorry,
so there's
Mom.
really no dorm. Like there's because it's like. You just kind of live at home literally till you're like married and then you move out. Like
crazy.
very rarely do do kids or I guess
Young
adults move out before they're married. But yeah, so there's no like whenever you go to college, because I feel like in America it's like, okay, you finish high school and then it's like college and you can like move wherever you want. But no, in Mexico it's like unless you go to like a different state or like not state but a different city in Mexico. But yeah, so like if you were to stay within Mexico City, because that's where I'm from, you just stay at home and go to college and go back. And it's kind of like school because you don't really
You never.
you don't go anywhere.
Because
Yeah.
there's an interesting transition in America when you leave.
Right. And
I mean,
you
my
leave-
parents, when I was 18, they were like deuces, and they paid for college, and they sent me to college, and they expected college and postgraduate degree from all of us, which they got from all of us, except for my brother, but we won't talk about him. But yeah, it
You have
was.
a postgraduate
That's
degree?
one of the guys
I
he
have
dates.
2 bachelors and a master's.
Oh, today I learned.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't
Wow,
know that.
you're
Yeah.
educated.
I learned something today.
But when
Crazy.
we went, and actually, I will give you some fodder, some cannon fodder over here. So when I left at 18, being the youngest of 4, and military family, and I was very, very close to my family, I went through a crisis my first semester. I went through an absolute, complete emotional breakdown.
You
because-
lived away from him. You were.
yeah, I moved from Dallas to DC.
Okay.
And I literally didn't know what to do with my life. And I had issues with my roommate, and I just couldn't function. And so if you look at my transcripts, I'm completely withdrawn from my first semester. And I finally got it together. And, after that, I was perfectly fine in school. But I struggled. I struggled
Well,
being
I
away
think
from them.
I think a lot of
no,
people do.
Yeah, no, trust
That's-
me. Yeah,
that's not weird.
Whenever I came to college and I was actually literally on my own, yeah, no, it was hard. I had a boyfriend at that time, and I remember I just wanted to go back to Mexico. I was like, wow, this is hard. I was like, this is real life. I have to like work and go to school and like pay for things. And it was just really hard. And I really had a breakdown. It was like an ugly cry breakdown. And I just wanted to go back home. But I was like, no, you know what? Like, I feel like if I go back home, that's just like me like giving up,
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely hard for like, I think any child, any young adult.
Well,
like,
the important
once
thing
you move-
is, it's usual and customary when you leave home to kind of freak out for a
Yeah,
little bit.
'cause
I
you
mean,
don't know what to do.
I definitely nailed that.
I don't think there's anything weird about that. I think that some people never recover from that though, where people of stronger suit or more of independent bent just go, okay.
Or like you've said, drop out of college. What's your statistic? How many kids
Oh,
drop out of college after?
half, almost
Yeah,
half.
after the first year.
Yeah, it's almost half.
So, I
Wow.
went through that struggle, that sort of crisis, and it was really difficult. To add to it, September 11th, I was living in D.C. when 9/11 happened.
Wow,
I watched the
okay.
Pentagon burn from my dorm room window. So that was added trauma right there. So, but I think once I finally recovered, I was able to refocus. And that's when the plan that my parents had worked so hard for my life, they're sort of trying to get me to this point. That's when I went nuts. Dean's List, all A's, 2 degrees. I don't have 2 majors. I have 2 separate degrees in undergraduate. So I kind of went crazy from there. They're mad that I didn't get a PhD.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to score bonus.
It would be a
with 2
much better
degrees
show if you had a PhD.
Zach, how many
true.
degrees do you have?
1 in radio, and another unofficial from the School of Hard Knocks.
Oh,
I've got 3 of those,
Okay.
homie.
So-
Marriage, divorce, baby.
Anyway, we're about
So,
halfway
okay.
through the show. How do Danny, Harry, how do you two know each other? How did this happen? We should explain.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess you can explain.
no, you explain.
Well,
You're the guest
so
host.
I started, my own blog after college, and I guess I was a little bit successful that I was hired at this company that his son is the CEO of. And so I guess they just liked what I did, and, you know, it was an honor to work there. So that's how I know Harry.
Danny came in to be our to be Mint Dentistry's social media director.
Okay.
And I knew we were looking for someone maybe 14 years old. And in walks Danny, who looked not.
Don't
14.
say looks 14 years old. She does not look like a 14-year-old.
At the time, it was nip and tuck.
Oh,
But-
Lord. What is happening here?
What does that even mean?
Anyway,
We
so
had a lot of interesting conversations.
she did a spectacular job, and so that's where we met each other.
Okay.
And she did a great job. So she was there about a year, and we were all impressed with the work she did. There was just some reasons she had to leave regarding
Yes.
her immigration status.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it was
That's a
sad.
real bummer.
But at the time, she had like 4,000 followers, and now you've got like
Yeah, so it was kind of
10,000.
crazy because
I
whenever
want you to talk about that and how that came about.
my blog.
Yeah, like blowing up, because when I first started researching you on Insta and all the different channels, I was like, I really want to know how somebody actually achieves that.
Oh, it's actually my site is launching today, so I'm actually talking about that. But yes, so I mean, whenever I was in college, you know, I was just like, I mean, I want to finish my degree and everything, but I also want to do something on the side. And that was me trying to be independent, because my friend was like, you know, you can actually make a lot of money from this. But never did I think that I would be living off of it like I do now. But so I kind of just started. I did my website. I was like, you need a website to blog about stuff. And I kind of was just doing that for, I think, about a year and a half. And then that's when I came to visit Dallas, and I was helping a friend, you know, with some social media stuff for a business. And then he was like, I think it was Frank at the time.
Okay.
I think at the time he was running social media for Mint. And then he didn't want to do that anymore. So he was like, I know a girl that can do it. And she's like, awesome. And so whenever I got hired, I was like, oh my God, no, I'm like totally not qualified. Like, guys, no.
That's everybody's
But-
first job, honestly.
Yeah.
However, being like, you know, half the age of everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
She
And
had
then I
to-
was like 21, you know, in a corporate office with all these people that know so much. And it's like a multi-million-dollar company. It's just like crazy.
That's everybody walking into their
Yeah.
first job, especially out of
So
college.
Danny, would you if you were to say there's ways parents can raise their children to become independent, how would you give 3 or 4 examples of maybe you weren't even aware of it at the time what your parents were doing, but certainly they did something that where you felt brave enough to leave. I mean, you were close to your parents. It
Right.
wasn't like you all had a major fight and you stomped out.
Oh, no. No, I think for sure, you know, if I was talking to like parents, just, I guess, lead by example. I think just their example and how, I mean, my dad, he didn't finish high school, but then he was able to, you know, make his own business and be very successful from that. And then my mom also, you know, she became an architect and then had her own business. So just from their example, you know, I was able to, I guess, know that I could be successful too and do my own thing. So, I mean,
But you had great respect for your parents.
Yeah, no, I love them.
I mean, you respect. No, I mean you
yeah.
sure, but you respected what they did.
Yes, what they did, and that they did their own thing,
Right.
and hustled, and, you know, got to where they were. And so I would say be an example is one of them. Another thing, which I guess it's a little bit bad, I don't know, but my parents, they weren't ever like, oh, I'm like so proud of you for doing like a small thing, you know? And it was like when I would see my like American friends, you know, their parents would be like, we're so proud of you.
Yeah,
for,
you
like,
changed
getting
your
an
underwear.
A."
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And so I feel like growing
talked
up,
about that.
it's
Yes,
like,
we have.
because I didn't really hear that all the time. I feel like I strived to be better, and I always strive to do more. And so I guess that, I don't know if that's like a bad
No,
So they
no.
were a
to
little
parents. But,
harder
you know,
on
I
you.
just don't think, I mean, they weren't hard on me. I just don't think I ever got like,
So we've talked on this show about too much praise
yeah, no, it's
and how parents are just
Right.
really quick to praise them for not
for something that
yeah,
anyone
for not
can
spilling
do.
their milk that
For
day,
changing
or for
their
changing their
underwear.
underwear. I mean, they
Yeah.
get gold stars and happy faces for the most useless stuff. So they're not they don't really have to strive
Right.
for excellence.
Because they just think that
Yeah,
everything
everything
they
is
do
praiseworthy.
right.
And then if they don't get praised, they think they're being criticized.
Right. So yeah, so for me, like not getting that praise and approval all the time, I think helped me to be a better person and helped me to like try to achieve better things. And so
Right.
even now when other people are like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," like in my mind, I'm like, I mean, that's something honestly anyone can do. But just,
See, you're making me feel so good about not only myself and the way I am in general, but the way I'm parenting. Because there's times when I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like you said, you put on clean underwear. Fabulous. Like, am I
Yeah.
supposed to give you a gold star? And I'm being told by other people of my generation that I don't praise, other people I work with enough. And I'm like, that's because you didn't do your job right.
yeah, no, people want to get praised for like doing what they need to do. It's ridiculous.
I've got a great story.
Yes.
So when I first moved back to Dallas, I met this guy who worked at AT&T call center, and everybody in America wants all the call centers to move back to the States because they're tired of talking to people from other countries. Well, he told me that people would get a bonus at the end of the week for perfect attendance at their job. And I was like, are you joking me?
You mean
You mean you
what?
showed up to work on
Right.
time and didn't leave early and you get a bonus for
Wow.
that? I wish I were.
Yeah,
working
that's
there.
crazy.
That's happening because
What is that?
I mean, as we've talked, too much praise can lead you to
to just be mediocre, I guess,
right
in life. I feel
because you
like.
get praised for being mediocre. So
Yeah.
why
So
work
why
harder?
try? Yeah,
Did
exactly.
something.
Or
So I-
even try, or even go above and beyond.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, for sure.
People forget that you're supposed to work for the job you want, not to work for the job that you have.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of something that was instilled in me is work harder every day.
Well, this is my fear of certainly young American males, is that they've been praised incessantly since they were born, and now that they're looking at 18 or 22 or 25, that's why they live at home, is that they still get praised for waking up and change their underwear,
Right.
not for why go and look for a job if your parents are willing to support you and praise you all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to do stuff around the house, okay? There's a whole post-hole digger story that I could talk about where, a bunch of dudes didn't know how to use a post-hole digger. And even if you've never used one, post-hole digger, whatever. The point is that, and we're not trying to pick on the boys, Zach, today, but
Why do you look at me when you say that? Harry's a man.
Yes, but you had that post hole.
but what's a post-hole
Do you know
digger?
how to change a tire?
Yes, I do.
Do you know how to change a tire, Danny?
I want to
Ooh.
learn.
Oh, snap.
And that is how you shift the blame to another guest.
No, I've
Yes!
actually always wanted to learn, actually.
Oh, well,
But my car is bougie, so it's hard.
your car is bougie?
Yeah, it's
Bougie.
like I have to take it to the dealership
when I
if
was
anything
when I
happens,
was
so.
12 years old, my mother had a flat tire on the way to work, and so she came home in her hose and her heels because she's old school, and she said, "I don't think you girls know how to change a tire. Get out here right now." She made all three of us girls take the tire off and put the tire back on one at a time. And at 12,
that's amazing.
I was able to leverage my body weight to undo the lug nuts, and then she drove it to the car tires, guys. Because she was on a spare. So,
Yeah.
but at any rate.
So you got the praise thing. There's
Yes.
one other thing that you've noticed.
Oh, let me see. Let me think.
You're on the spot.
You're on the spot.
You're taking up our
I know.
dead air here.
Oh my God, no. I don't know. I mean, give
well,
me examples and then.
one of the
like,
things
I'll
we've
think.
talked about on the show is this incessant desire to make your children happy. They'll throw $1,000 birthday parties for a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Or give a 15-year-old a BMW. Oh, so you have a BMW.
Yes, but I mean,
But who
okay,
bought the BMW?
But the point being, if all a parent does is try and make their child happy,
Yeah.
then they're not busy teaching them anything of honors and values and morals and work ethic, because
Oh,
that would
yeah.
make a child unhappy. to
Yeah,
learn
no,
that stuff.
okay, yeah. So I think growing up, yes, I was very fortunate. And then I think it was like when the recession came, we had to like cut back and stuff. And it was very hard for me. Like as a child, I was just like, oh my God, I can't go shopping every weekend and stuff. And it was very, very hard on me. And so then later on, as now that I'm older, I look back at that experience because it was a little traumatizing to me. And, I'm just like, I do want to give my kids like the stuff that they want and need, but I just don't want to go above and beyond and give them everything
Right.
all the time because, I hope not, but like if there ever is a time where it's like you can't give it to them, it's really hard on them. And I've had to deal with that where it was like really hard for a season. And it was just like, I wanted to like die.
Well,
It was
let's
just, like,
come up
terrible.
with some quick questions.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time.
Oh,
But
no.
did you have to do chores when you were a child?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
And before the recession, even before the recession, did your parents say no? Like you'd say, "Oh, I want a Snickers bar at the store," and they're like, "Sorry, homie."
No, I think they always kind of gave me everything I wanted.
Well, there goes that line of questioning. Nice
But
job,
no.
Kathleen. Just
No,
undermine
but
everything.
I mean, I think they they did. I mean, I think they tried really hard, but you're laughing. Stop. Okay, no, they. I mean, yes. I mean, no, they.
I'm
didn't.
saying, did you hear no?
No, I mean, I did. I mean, if it was like crazy stuff, yes. Or, I think sometimes they would make me wait.
Did they demand things from
appreciate.
you, like in terms of school? Like you need to go to school, you need to listen to your teachers, you need to be a good girl.
Yes, but I was very just driven in school, so I always like did my work and like I was super like try to get
You were
A's and
easy
stuff.
peasy,
But
huh?
my brother, on the other hand, yeah, my mom had to be like after him and Isaac, do your homework and
So she demanded excellence.
Yes.
The parents
Right,
demanded
right.
excellence.
They
and
demanded
that's-
it.
yeah,
Well,
oh
didn't
no,
overpraise
yes,
her
for
and-
sure. And then
Yeah.
my mom being an architect, how they have to do like the straight lines and stuff all the time. She's like a perfectionist, and I think that's where I get it from too. But I remember I would do my homework, and it would be like just a little bit wrinkly, and she'd be like, "No, do it over again. Like this is ugly." And like and I think that has like taught me a lot because I just want to have excellence, and I want to do everything like
to the best of your
yes,
ability.
exactly. So I think she taught me that, and I'm like very
Well, those are some great
appreciative
gifts
for that.
because it's really served you well.
yeah, for sure.
Are we good on time or are we bad?
I think we should just about wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
This has been great. This has been great. If for no other
been
reason,
great.
everything you've said, you've agreed with me.
As I always try.
I would love to have you back though, so we can talk about the cultural differences because we had thought we would get into that.
Right.
We didn't at all. We just kind of got into your
Yeah.
story, and I love your story.
Oh well, thank you.
And okay, so tell everybody out there in podcast world, where are your handles, where do we follow you, etc.
yes, so my name is Dani Rios, and you can follow me on
It's
social.
DANI.
DANI, yes. You can follow me on social media at Little Mexico, and it's MIXICO, not Mexico like MEX, but that's my Instagram, Twitter handle, Facebook, everything else. And then my blog name is littlemexico.com.
Love it, consistency.
Yes.
Great
Always.
branding.
Yes.
Great branding. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Dani. Your
Thank
story
you,
is
Harry, for
fascinating.
having me.
And you really had a fortunate childhood.
I did.
Totally. And I'd love to get more into this discussion about what's wrong with American men today. But
Oh my God, please.
I
Another
noticed you
discussion.
were picking on the boys today.
Yeah.
It could be a whole podcast.
it could be a whole season. so,
But honestly.
so thank you, Kathleen Dunoon.
So.
Thank you, Zach, for
Thank you.
an excellent program. And Kathleen failed to bring a book that she would like to overtly sell, but
You know what, Harry? I've been working so hard at being excellent at my job today.
yet
I
you
just-
failed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
Next week, dealing with failure.
Okay. so-
Denoyer style.
So thank you, everybody. We will talk to you next week.
Will They Ever Leave is a production of the Real News Communications Network in collaboration with Harry H. Harrison Jr. This episode was recorded and edited by Matt Stoker and myself, Zach Lewis. Production music courtesy of the Audio Jungle Music Library. To find out more about Harry and his work, or to purchase one of his books, visit www.fearlessparenting.com.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.